you're a part of the European Parliament Intergroup. Can you please explain what it is and what do you guys do?
Yes, well, actually I'm very proud to be the co-chair of the LGBTI Intergroup in the European Parliament. We are a group of 152 members of the European Parliament from five political groups, and we are defending LGBTI rights, and we are liaising with civil society. We are in many committees, and when we work on reports and when we work on resolutions, we always try to put on the LGBTI glasses and see if we can make the text better, and also make sure that in no policy field LGBTI rights or matters are ignored.
So the people who are part of the Intergroup, are you politically spread out, or is it how is it?
Well, we are from five bigger political groups. Of course, there's no one from the very conservative and from the identity nationalist parties, because they are all part of the anti-gender movement. So it's mostly progressive, social democrats, Greens, from the left, liberals. But there's a few colleagues also from the European People's Party in it. But it's a majority of progressives. But it's very important that we have of the 152 members of our group, not all are LGBTI persons, so allyship is very important, 152. And the allyship is even bigger because when was it? In March 2020, we had a resolution to declare the European Union an LGBTI freedom zone, and there 492 members of the European Parliament voted for this resolution, and that's really important to have such a big allyship to defend LGBTI rights in the European Parliament. And to counter those who want to tell that we are an ideology and that we're quite good in the European Parliament, I must say.
You guys just launched a strategy here in 2020. Mm-hmm. Can you try to explain what that is about and
well,
why?
It's the European Commission, Commissioner Dalli, the Commissioner for Equality, and we are very happy that for the first time the European Commission has one commissioner dedicated to equality. And Helena Dalli, as the European Commission, launched the LGBTI equality strategy, and the European Parliament was very much in the preparation. Commissioner Dalli worked very much with the European Parliament, but also with the civil society, with ILGA Europe, with the transgender associations, with rainbow family associations. So that's a strategy now for the next 5 years. Europe can do some things, but we can't do everything. You know, we have the treaties and we have some competences. So it's very important that this strategy also says member states have to have national action plans, and the Commission is monitoring them, and we are monitoring them. And therefore it's also important that members of national parliaments and the civil society in the member states push that this strategy is properly implemented. On the EU level, we will have two directives, which is two laws, major laws. One is to the recognition of families. You know, Commissioner Dalli and President von der Leyen said if you're a parent in one country, you must be a parent in another country. So this is about free movement, that's European competences. We will have a directive. And also something very important is that hate crime and hate speech, and also when targeted towards LGBTI people, will be added to the list of Euro crimes. And and this is European law, so member states must transpose it into national law. So these are two major legislative points in this strategy, but there's also a lot of recommendations, and but we can't do everything from Brussels. We have to work together with the colleagues in national parliaments, but also with the colleagues, activists on the ground in the member states. Mm-hmm.
Well, if you take like kind of the negative glasses on, how long do you think it will take for this strategy to be implemented into the European countries?
Well, we are confronted now. We're confronted now with a few member states where there is a lot of regression. So in many member states, I think I'm positive it will go forward, and there is already a lot achieved. I mean, here in Denmark, but still, there can be backlashes everywhere, and we have to defend what we have. And especially, we also focus a lot on trans and intersex people. They have been in many countries forgotten, and we need also legislation, better legislation for them. So the strategy is for 5 years. I hope that there will be progress when we measure it, when we see the results in 5 years. But this is an ongoing fight, and we have to continue working for our rights, to get more rights, but also defending those we have. Because, as I said, you see what happens in Poland and in Hungary, and therefore I'm so happy that my friend Cyrus is here, who was so active in a resolution we voted in July to condemn the very anti-LGBTI legislation in Hungary.
Mm-hmm. I would actually like to dive down in transgender intersex a little bit. Mm-hmm. What are the main points on that in the strategy?
Well, for trans, it's that self-determination and depathologisation. You know, these are important aspects, and also for intersex is the ban on medical intervention on babies if there is no medical need. You know, this forced, you know, these operations into this is something which should be banned, and some countries already have legislation, and this is something we have to raise also more awareness of this, because this is mutilation of babies, and we cannot tolerate that here in Europe.
Well, what do you think is the long prospects of the Intergroup in Europe? Do you have anything planned next after the strategy, or?
Well, of course we are constantly, you know, European legislation is evolving, and we are constantly monitoring what is going on, and we're trying to get organized also to be strong vis-à-vis the anti-gender movement, you know, which is infiltrating also European politics. So we have to be very watchful and come up with ideas and push the Commission to do more, and push the Council to be active and to keep the LGBTI questions high on the agenda. And I always say that we don't fight for extra rights for LGBTI people. It's just about equality and the same rights. And this is sometimes people who are against us, they say, you want... No, it's just the same rights. And I think we're only equal until we're all equal.
Here you are part of the EU Parliament, and you're also part of the Intergroup, who is looking at LGBTIQ plus issues within Europe. First off, how is it to work in the EU Parliament, and why is it that you are investing so much of your time into the LGBTQI plus issues?
Well, it's interesting work, all of it. European politics is super important for our everyday life. And I think also having the possibility to make a change is quite satisfying. It's also difficult. And I'm engaging in the LGBTI Intergroup because I think it's important to be a good ally and to support where you can. And also when you have the privileges that I have, there's also a responsibility to help others gain the same. And then it's interesting work because we work across different national parties and also different political backgrounds. So they're conservatives, they're Greens, they're Social Democrats, and that gives a great opportunity to cooperate.
Mm-hmm. Besides the LGBTIQ you're working with, what else are you working with in the EU Parliament?
I'm working with employment issues. So that also touches on the LGBTI issue, and then equality and gender pay, and then economic stuff. So like money laundering, tax havens, and all of that.
Yeah. So everything is actually connected for you throughout your work in the EU Parliament?
Yeah, I think so. Especially with like the feminist issues and the green issues, to have that interlinked with all the policy that we do.
So why is it to you that you feel the need to have all these equal rights throughout Europe?
Well, I think for me, of course, the EU started as an economic cooperation, but I think also as a left-wing person, it has to be so much more than that. So having a union that stands for human rights, I think is really important, and who values like the values in general of equal rights as equal as the economic ones. So that's why I think it's just so important for our union to stay together.
When we look at issues in like Poland, Hungary, what do you think that you as an EU politician can do to help out with that?
Oh gosh, that's one of the difficult questions. I think, of course, some of the issues that we can, or some of the things we can do, is taking away the economic support for the countries or the regions, and supporting NGOs and civil society. But it's really difficult because I think lots of it comes with also the ability to change the culture and the norms in different groups of the society. And that's just a really hard work to do. Like in Denmark, we're still in that progress. But those are some of the issues that we try to tackle and discuss.
You've come up with a new strategy that rolled out here in 2020 and goes on until 2025. Is there any pinpoints on that you like in particular?
Yeah, I think that actually quite a lot. I read it again yesterday and was like, okay, it's not the worst. So there's going to be some legislation on EU hate crimes, stating that like hate crimes against LGBTI people are also an EU crime. So I think that can be really great. And then also a revision of our labor laws, ensuring that if you're, for example, a same-sex couple, you can travel with your partner and have that partner recognized.
In general, do you think it's important for EU to make these suggestions on laws so that we get a more equal picture throughout Europe?
Yeah, I think in general, as an EU citizen, I think it's a right to be who you are in all member states, not just the northern and western European ones. So that demands EU legislation. And of course, we have limited competences on some of it, but trying to push the member states also in those areas in regards to like protection in the streets, or if you go to clubs, or like the healthcare system and the education system, where we don't have the EU competence, but giving the best practices and pushing the member states is vital to achieve equality.
Again, the thing that you put out is just a strategy. Have you guys any visions of employing laws to any of the European countries after this?
Yeah, well, the two things I highlighted before on the hate speech and the labor movement, that's actual legislation. It's also the two only ones, as I believe, due to the lack of competence. And I think some of the issues, and of course there are lots of LGBTI strategies, and we do strategies all the time, and some of them are just talk. And that's what we have to also fight, that it's not just stopping there, and that we actually also get real legislation on some of the other issues. I think one of the issues I hope we can tackle on an EU level is also like a ban on conversion therapy. I think that could be really, really good. Yeah, so there's still plenty of things to do.
Rasmus, you're part of the European Parliament and you're also part of the Intergroup. Why did you say yes to be part of the Intergroup?
I think it's important to secure minority rights and to work for common European values, and I think to stand up for LGBTIQ plus rights is very important, and this is why I joined the Intergroup after I was elected to the European Parliament.
So why is it that the human rights and the LGBTIQ rights are so important to you?
I mean, we can see that minorities are threatened in different parts of the world, and I think as a politician we are quite privileged in the role we are having, and I think we should use our role to support minority communities. And then I'm also part of the LGBTIQ plus community and also part of the Danish minority in Germany, so maybe this helps also to understand minority issues.
Mm-hmm. When we look at the strategy, is there any pinpoints in that where you think this is particularly good?
Well, I think there are a lot of good elements, but now we need to ensure that we are going further, but especially the parts where the Commission will present some legal action related, for example, to the recognition of rainbow families, or also when it comes to equal rights at the workplace. I think they are really important because we need to empower the LGBTI community. The European Union can do a lot there, but we also need to see legal action, and this is really the new thing in the strategy, and this is what I like most.
So, when you roll this out in 2020, Do you already see any difference when you look at Europe?
Well, I think that LGBTIQ plus issues are debated much more right now, and I think that also on the ground it means a lot also for activists in countries where the situation is quite bad right now, that we have a European Commission and a strong European Parliament working for LGBTI rights. But of course we would like to see some more action, especially from the European Commission, and we need to see that words are followed with concrete measures now. And this is at least what the Commission needs to do now.
So if we take a look at Poland and Hungary, many have talked about sanctions, and some have talked about expelling these countries. What do you think about like the two possibilities of either sanctions or expelling?
Well, the first step is sanctions, and I think also we need to see legal action going on. We need to put the cases to the European Court of Justice, and we need really to lay political and legal pressure on the countries. I don't think to expel the countries out of the European Union would help a lot, because we also need to give support to the LGBTI plus community in those countries, and I think this is why I think that legal action and concrete support, concrete measures for NGOs, for example, in Poland and Hungary is the best you can do.
So basically, like help the community in these countries. And then maybe economical sanctions for the governments?
Yeah, economical sanctions like, for example, financial help. Both Poland and Hungary are getting a lot of money out of the European budget, out of the COVID package the European Union came up with last year. And then there are other possibilities like, for example, to sanction with taking the voting rights away from those countries. That's also a possibility, and I think we really need to work in this direction.
If we take a greater look at the European map and we take Poland and Hungary as an example, like hate crimes throughout Europe, do you see that as a big issue?
Yes, of course. And I mean, there is something going on in Poland and in Hungary where we really need to oppose, but there are also a lot of other countries and a lot of room for improvement in all of the member states of the European Union, and I think it's really important to address this as well, because we shouldn't discuss only the bad things going on in some of the countries. We also need to address, for example, the situation of trans and inter people in many parts of Europe, where we also can see that in countries like Denmark or Germany, where the situation for LGBTI, of course, is better than in Poland, but we can still see there is a lot to do, and we also need to address this because LGBTI rights are human rights and fundamental rights in the European Union, and this means that we need to protect and strengthen them in all parts of Europe.
Okay. So do you see trans and inter rights being a bigger part of your work in the Intergroup in the future?
Yes, I think so. And this is really something where we can see that also thanks to a lot of activists, this has already been part much more of the debates we are having in the European Parliament in the last year. And I think we will continue with that, and we will address a lot of more concrete measures for trans and inter rights than maybe we had done in the past.